Hi, welcome to the Vaguely Anime Podcast. I am one of the hosts this evening of Culture Corner, Michael, followed by other host, Sage.
That's me.
It's not cultured, but I feel like I'm obligated to give us our team name.
It's our duo.
Yeah, it's the duo name.
Yeah.
Regardless of the fact that I think we've only done one or two cultured corners.
We don't do it super often, but I feel like you said it the best. We are definitely the most cultured of the group.
Yeah.
So, Culture Corner.
Yeah, it just works.
Yeah. Instead of cultured stuff, though, Mike is going to tell me about D&D.
Yeah.
And why I should maybe get into it.
Well, I mean, look, it's not necessarily for everybody, but I think that it is worth trying at least once.
Right.
For almost anybody. Because, so I didn't play D&D until I was already in Texas, so
so you were like a
year,
junior in college already.
Yeah, so third year of college, and I was like, and I had friends. They were the friends that I knew in Texas when I went down there, that played, and I always was like, they would ask, and I was always like, nah, that's a level of nerd I don't want in my life. That's too far down. I'm too cool for that.
You're like, I can't be that far. I feel like, do you think it's like general nerdy things like comic books and
like
then you
comics and like comics, movies, stuff like that, then you get to anime,
right? That's like a step down,
and then step from there is probably D&D.
What? But do you think in between D&D and anime
fanfics?
Really? Because I was gonna say like I feel like fanfics kind of go hand in hand with anime.
Now, because you have to be nerdy enough to then create your own smut or not smut of the characters.
Oh, that's true.
That feels like an extra step.
That's true. But I was gonna say, like the dating simulators.
Okay, so I'm gonna put that on the same level as
fan fiction. Okay. And then you have LARPing. Which
LARPing's
I feel like,
under.
Yeah, LARPing I feel like is the most.
Like, yeah, it's LARPing is the final tier.
Final tier.
That's the boss.
I think you're right.
I would maybe do it once.
I don't.
Just for the experience.
I feel like.
I think I would hate it though.
I couldn't, mainly because I can't like get into that kind of thing. It's just really not for me.
I don't think I could either. I think I would be like, like in my head, I'd be making fun of it the entire time. But like,
not even making fun of it. I'm just like, the farthest I think I could ever go is like putting on a cosplay. But I don't even think that counts as LARPing.
No.
You know what I mean?
It's like the step before.
Yeah, but like I could, like I've done cosplay before, made my own costumes, all that stuff. But I do it to like feel cute, not really to like be that person, if that makes sense. And I'm really bad at like acting like not myself, if that makes sense.
I feel like if I were to do it, like, I don't know. I always said I don't think I could really.
Yeah, same.
But like, if given the opportunity with people that like I knew and it would be funny more than anything else, like,
right?
I'd probably give it a shot. But I would not just like go to Central Park's LARPing.
Yeah,
group
no,
and do
absolutely
that.
not.
Like,
I feel like I would be like, I don't really mind if other people want to do it, but I just feel like I would be so embarrassed. I'll be like, people are looking at me like I am looking at me.
Yeah, but so yeah, I think LARPing's like the final destination.
Yeah.
Like you can't get nerdier. And then so
actually below that is having a podcast about anime.
Yeah. We just skipped the steps.
Yeah, we just skipped a couple of steps.
But so D&D, so third year of college, I was like, it's too nerdy for me. I'm not taking that step. I already don't get bitches. I can't go lower.
I can't allow myself to fall any further.
And funny enough, that year I did get a girlfriend, so I guess it worked out.
So it worked out for you. Play D&D, or I don't know if that's like the right phrasing. Be part of a D&D group.
Play D&D.
Get a girlfriend.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. Anyone that's
step 1, step 2, there you go.
Yeah, honestly.
Achievement unlocked.
It's that easy, people. Who would have guessed? But so...
Maybe that's why I don't have a girlfriend. I never did D&D.
Yeah.
It explains it all.
Yeah, that's why you ended up with a husband.
Yeah, I'm going to let Mark know. I'm going to try out some D&D. Maybe I'll get a girlfriend. Side piece action,
Exactly. Finally at one point they're like, dude, just play like one game with us. Like they were already in a campaign, and do I need to explain what a campaign is to you?
It's like the story you go through.
Right, yeah. So that's like that's like where it's going to keep going.
It's not like forever.
It can be.
Oh god. But don't you want it to end? Don't you want like a satisfying like
I've known someone that's been playing the same campaign for 30 years. 40 years.
How?
They just keep going.
And
they're just like it's the same logic. I mean, I would never want this personally.
Right.
But it's the same logic as like Dragon Ball.
I guess that's fair.
It's just like you fought that big bad. Next arc starts.
Here's another big bad. And in this campaign, would it be like continuity in there, or you just like get to start fresh as you move along?
I don't know about theirs. I've never really asked details because I don't particularly like talking to that person.
That's fair.
But
40 years?
Yeah.
Are they old?
Mm-hmm.
They must be.
Yeah.
What are they, like 60?
Around there.
Oh my god. That's a long time to play one damn game.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on, I guess, the DM style. Maybe they just restart, or it might be a full-on continuity thing.
Right.
I
feel like that would be really impressive if it was full-on continuity.
It also depends. Like, some people care, some people don't.
Right.
You know? D&D is very... It's very driven by the people playing it.
Yeah, you can make it like whatever you want.
The DM and the players both are heavily controlling of what's going on, usually. Unless... All right. So, for the most part, obviously, DMs create the world, or they use one of the books that, like,
it's
Wizards
like a
of the
template.
Coast, makes, and you can play through that. And then, like, you can build off of it as your own thing. Because the whole point is that, like, you don't have to use the books. You can just do whatever the fuck you want.
Right.
The one time I ever ran a game personally, I mean, I've run a few times, but it's all been in the same thing. I, like, created my own world.
Right.
And just had some, like, how it worked that way. And then you still use the same mechanics of the game, but the world doesn't matter.
Right. So is there like set rules for D&D?
So yes, there are rules, but it's kind of
like pliable.
Again, it depends on the person though.
Right.
Because a DM can be like, these are the rules, you can't fucking do anything else. And there could be another that's like, that's the outline. I'll rule some other shit though. Like a lot of people go by rule of cool, which is like absolutely you cannot do this in the rules that are written.
Right.
But it's cool, so
we'll let it go.
Yeah, or like I'll think of a role for how this would make sense. You know, like somebody wants to do something, and you're like, all right, well, like in your head you're like, all right, well you can't actually do that, but it's cool. So like, give me an athletics check, and that's like a skill that a character can make, and be like. Because they're trying to do a backflip and stab this dude or whatever.
Right.
And you're like, sure, give me an athletics check and give me an attack roll to see if you can make the backflip and attack the guy.
Gotcha.
That's actually something you could do within the rules, but
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
But it depends. Somebody else, again, you technically can do that, but somebody else could be like, that's not in the rules, so you can't.
Oh.
So it depends, but some people like that. Some people want a DM that just kind of follows the rules.
Like the guidelines that you're given.
And some people want someone that's a little more like laid back or somewhere in between. It all just kind of depends. D&D is a very pliable, nebulous existence.
And then I've seen like for our Secret Santa this past year, I got Austin these like D&D, I think like weapons cards or something.
Yes.
I was confused by that, but Kirsten said it was a good thing for him.
So, if it's what I think it is, it's basically just like something you could, because he's a DM for the most part. So something like he could, if he gave a specific weapon to a player, a character, he could like give them the weapon card and be like, here, this is what it does, this is what it is, kind of thing. And like they have those for like they have a spell deck, so it's just all the spells written on cards.
Right.
So you just have them
cute.
physically instead of looking it up.
Right.
Or something like that. It all kind of depends how you want to play. Like I've never played or I have played Magic Users, but I don't like to because they're a lot of bookkeeping.
Right.
And I'm not a fan of bookkeeping.
Right.
Or memorization, because you have to remember how many spells you have and how many you've used, and it's not my kind of thing. I'm usually more of a martial fighter, which means like I'm more just like
attack.
I have a sword.
Right.
And I deal with things that way.
Right.
But that's what I find fun. I have played some magic users, but they are not usually characters I like to play for long periods of time. The only times I've played them have been like one shots or a character that I only was having come in for like 3 or 4 sessions, and then I was having somebody else, or something like that. But D&D, it's like hard to explain because it's very like nebulous.
Right.
But some DMs will have more combat focus, like you'll be in a war and it's just you're fighting.
Right.
Some DMs will be like, it's going to be heavy role play. You're just going to be acting out your character in these things, and it's going to be like a political debates and stuff like that, or a balance of both. The campaign I'm in currently, like the last couple sessions were like a political part, so it was mostly RP, and it was just like us trying to get a bunch of factions of people together to help us fight the big bad.
Okay.
And then the last couple sessions before those were purely combat. It was us trying to get to an area to like get an item to help us with what we were going to be doing in this political summit.
Right.
So, like it all kind of depends, and it's just like it depends on what you want to do and how you want to play it. That's why I think like D&D is so fun, because it can be what you want it to be to have fun.
Right.
If you're much more into role playing, you can just play a game that's mostly role playing with some combat. Or if you're mostly into combat, you just play mostly combat if you don't feel like RPing a character.
Right.
And even if you are more into combat, but you're playing with people that like to role play, you can just leave the role playing to them, and you could be like, hey, I want to just go find a bar and drink, or, I want to go find a fighting pit and just go fight.
Right.
And be like, all right, well, like, we're going to focus on these people in the tavern talking to this dude, and then, all right, they've been doing that for a bit. Let's cut back to you and have you fight this person or whatever, and then we're going to cut back, and like, So it's like there's something for everyone. Mm-hmm. And I think it's also just really cool to like commit to this image of a character you've created. Again, I wasn't much like that when I first started playing. I was not like RPing. I was like, I want to just fight things.
Right.
My first character I ever made, his name was Todd Smith. Because I was playing in a game with people that all had really big fantasy names, and I was like, I'm gonna do the opposite because I don't care. So I made Todd Smith.
It's very on brand for you.
In a party with like fucking what were their names? Like
I think
Alphonse
in an alternate
Tark
universe, your name is Todd Smith, not Mike.
Exactly. He had a pet chicken because why not? And he was like 25. The chicken was
25,
something like that.
That's an old ass chicken.
No, the character.
Oh.
But the chicken was also 25. I was going to get to
God.
that. And because the chicken was born the same day as him.
I see. So they're soulmates.
Yeah. And everyone was like, how the fuck is the chicken still alive? And I was like, just is.
Magic.
Yeah, it's just
a magic
alive.
Chicken.
And I was mostly just there for combat. He died like 5 times.
The chicken or the guy?
Both.
Okay.
But I was joining a campaign where they were already kind of high level, so they had money and access to spells and shit to revive my character.
So you had to rank up.
So
you don't just start off like decked out.
Oh no, well you can.
Gotcha.
So again, it depends on what kind of game the DM and the players want. A lot of people start at level 1. Some people start at level 3 because like level 3 is where you kind of get access to whatever class you pick's abilities. So if you're a rogue, obviously you're a rogue from level 1, but come level 3, and it varies sometimes for some classes it's level 2, but it doesn't matter. Level 3, like as a rogue, you then get to pick what kind of rogue you want to be.
Okay.
And that's like when you get access to certain things.
Gotcha.
So some people start at level 3 just to get it out of the way that you already have your abilities. Or some people start so you can go up to level 20. Some people start just at level 20 and they're like, fuck it, we're doing a high level campaign, go for it. The problem that I find with D&D though is that magic users like wizards and sorcerers and whatever, there's a very hard balancing act in the game.
Right.
And it to be fair, not an easy problem to solve. They haven't solved it in any of the editions of the game, which is martial characters usually always start out stronger because they can take a lot of hits and they can deal a lot of damage very early on.
Right.
Because you just got a sword and you can run up to people and attack them.
Right.
Magic users usually not very strong, and if they get hit once, they're if they get hit a few times, they're kind of fucked because they stay in the back.
Right.
But come like level 10 to 12, there's a huge shift.
Okay.
Where magic users all of a sudden become really fucking strong. And martial characters are still strong, but they are nowhere near, and so they seem much weaker. Because you can just be throwing around fucking atomic bombs as a wizard, and you're like, and you just got your dude with a sword, and you're like, how the fuck am I supposed to fight that? You know?
Yeah.
So
that doesn't sound ideal.
So like, obviously there are ways to work about it, and a lot of DMs just try to balance it best they can, and it is what it is. But also, not a lot of people commit to playing high-level campaigns. Usually you get to a certain level, like, say, around 10 or 12, and that's usually, like, the end of the campaign.
Okay.
Just so you don't have to deal with that.
I wonder what level the 40-year campaign guy is.
I think they've been level 20 for a while. There's this thing called epic levels that are confusing and bullshit, and we don't have to get into that, but, like,
okay.
You keep doing
I was
things.
picturing, like, level 100.
No. In a way. But it's a whole thing. It's not worth explaining because I also don't know it very well.
Okay.
So it's just not worth it. Usually high level campaigns are just for fun.
Gotcha.
But some people commit and they just figure out a way to balance it. And I've played a game up to level 20. It didn't take again, it also depends on how you're playing. Like our characters got from level 1 to level 20 within the time span of like 6 months to a year of what we were playing, just because we were playing every weekend and and you can decide how fast you want your characters to level up. It's up to you.
Gotcha.
Because there's either XP, how many every enemy that you have them face has a set amount of XP that you earn from killing them.
Right.
Or you just decide when to by what's called milestone leveling, which is as the DM you just decide that they have gotten to a part of the story where they have earned a level.
Gotcha.
And so we got to level 20, and then also, so there are different editions of the game. There's because it like updates to a software,
right?
So I used to play what was called 3.5, and it's old. It's very easy to break it because there are so many books about what rules and works and whatnot that a lot of books end up like overlapping and contradicting each other. So it's very easy to break that game, but it's also very fun.
Right.
So that's what I started playing the game as. And I had two friends that were really they knew the rules in and out and they knew how to fucking break it very easily.
Gotcha.
So we were playing this campaign and it just got stupid real fast once we got to a certain level. Because they were playing magic users that knew how to break the rule and knew what they could get away with because either rules were vague or this overwrote other things. And
gotcha.
So at one point we had, so basically one character was an artificer, which is like a science wizard.
Okay. Fun.
They create things like items and stuff, and they are like powerful magic items. At one point, I think we were like level 12 or something. She found a way in the rules to make an item that basically could create a pocket of space that she could go into, but it would have its own time. So like if have you watched Dragon Ball?
Yeah.
The hyperbolic time chamber?
Yeah.
Basically imagine that.
Okay.
She created that.
Okay.
Which you're not really supposed to be able to do.
Okay.
But she knew how the rules worked and was like, if I combine this with this and this and this and this and that and this
then
and that,
I can make my own damn time chamber.
Yeah. So basically, in the span of what was in the game a minute, she could, at one point she lowered it down to 6 seconds, and so in combat a turn is 6 seconds.
Okay.
So like everybody that goes. So say you have 6 enemies and allies together on the field.
You each get a second.
It doesn't really work out that way. It's just once it gets back to the top of, so you roll initiative. It doesn't matter, but let's just say it's from 20 to 1.
Okay.
Once you get through all the thing to get to 1 and it restarts at 20, that's 6 seconds.
Gotcha.
Regardless of how many people are fighting within that set time.
Gotcha.
So they got it down to 6 seconds, which meant they could take 1 turn to do this, which was they spent 6 seconds creating a weapon that would track every single dragon in the entire world. She could fire the gun. It would track them, hit them, and it would deal like 1 million damage.
I see.
And so she just killed every dragon in the world in a minute. And so, because we were there and technically were helping, we all just leveled up to level 20 immediately.
I see.
And because at the time we were doing XP. And so the DM was like,
well,
cool. And at one point he created this enemy that was supposed to be like the father of all dragons and was supposed to be this big deal. And again, she just went into her little time bubble.
Oh my god.
And then just made a weapon that would kill it instantaneously. And he was pissed. So it got to a point in that game where like we understood it was broken and we went, fuck it, we're just gonna have fun with this at this point. Like he was like, all right, fuck it, I can't really stop this. I did it to myself. Like I didn't balance this correctly. It's my bad. So the end game was always gonna be that like the universe was falling apart.
Okay.
So then because we were already so strong, he was like, fuck it, it's just happening now.
Yeah.
And so
it should have been like, y'all get Thanos snapped.
Just we're dead.
Start over. You gotta figure out how to not be snapping.
But so like because we leveled up so fast, we had basically like gained godhood, and we used our powers to make the moon into a flying pyramid that we could then travel through dimensions to get everybody on the planet and in the out of the universe that was collapsing and go to a different universe. Now that's not usually a thing you can ever do in D&D, but like the campaign was bullshit, so we were like, fuck it.
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah. So like the artificer just made a moon into a flying dimensional pyramid, and the joke was gonna be that. So this was a separate campaign from the first campaign I was playing. The first campaign had pyramids that were invading the universe and destroying it. Okay. So we were going to make a whole full circle joke that we were the pyramids invading his world.
That's funny. I like that. Cute.
Yeah. And then because of Artificer, her character was fucking insane.
I see.
She went, yeah, fuck it, and just blew up the entire thing during the interdimensional portal.
I see.
Yeah. So like
if I ever did one, I would want to be a wraith, sneaky, spy, ghost-like.
Like you want to play a wraith?
Yeah.
You could probably figure that out.
I want to be like.
It's not usually a race you can do, but you can figure it out.
Because I was watching Shadow and Bone, and one of the characters in the show is a wraith. If you ever watch it, I liked it. It's like good, like young, like YA fantasy bullshit,
right?
But like pretty high quality. I really like enjoyed it, but it's I think because it's also partially like catering to my love of those things,
right?
But yeah, there's one character, her name is Inej. I would die for her. She's incredible, and she's a wraith. She's so many useful skill sets.
I feel like
disappears on command.
I mean, that could probably be something that to be figured out. Although I would say if you were going to do like a one shot, it'd probably make more sense to start with a regular race to figure out how the game even works.
No. I don't know like what the races are allowed to be. I'm just saying if I could, that's what I would be.
I mean, it kind of depends. Like I had one of my friends, she was really good at creating custom classes and races, and one of her races was like a ghost where they could like kind of phase through an attack.
Ooh, fun.
Like up to 3 times a day.
Ooh, fun.
So
so there's already like set stuff you can be.
Yeah, like elves, humans, dwarves, stuff like that.
Does that depend on like what kind of world you're building? If you're not using like a book set,
for the most part, most people
or you stay within like certain parameters.
I mean, like you could technically make a D&D world that's like sci-fi and you're just traveling through things, but like you could keep the races. Most people keep some things the same.
Right.
You know, like
because it's a good like touchstone.
It just makes more sense. Like, why create a bunch of new races? I mean, some people do,
right?
But like, why create a bunch of new races when you could just use the ones that you have access to and already know?
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. And then I have another question.
But you can just create stuff too. Like he created basically a ghost class. Like they were called phantoms, because
Danny Phantom.
You can, like, why not? And I've created a few classes or races too. Like I created an Oni race that was like based off of like Japanese Oni.
Okay.
Because one of my players wanted to play a race like that, and I was like, "Fuck it, I can figure something out." So then I like wrote up an entire thing about how like their history and what they were and like how they worked. And each color had like a different ability.
Neat.
So, what was your question?
Oh, my question is: so you have you watched Stranger Things?
Yes.
So their game is D&D essentially?
Yes, it's an old version of D&D.
But they call it something else?
Do they?
I don't know. I just know they have like their club, and I thought that's what the game was.
The Hellfire Club?
Is that not what the game is called?
I think it's just the club name.
Oh.
They're playing an older edition of the game, obviously, because it's set in like the 80s. But
right.
But yeah, funny enough though, in the show, at one point in the 3rd season, one of the characters rolls like a natural 20, which like defeats the evil bad guy.
Okay.
But natural 20s didn't mean the same thing back then that they do now.
So
it wouldn't have really mattered. But I like to think that the DM of the game was like, fuck it.
Yeah, whatever.
Like, whatever. Let the person get the victory.
Yeah.
But so when you're rolling a die, basically, so there's a D20, which is a 20-sided die.
Right.
20 being like usually
the most.
You automatically succeed. A 1 being you automatically fail.
Gotcha.
Usually, not always, but that is usually how it works. Then there's D12s, D10, technically a D100, which is a percentile. It's just 2 D10s.
Okay.
And then a D8, D6, and D4.
Okay.
And you basically use all those to roll, but the most part you're basically using a D20 for everything. Like that is just your base.
That's like
die
standard of like, oh, I want to do this.
Yeah, I want to do this. I want to do that. Like I want to attack. I want to do a skill check. I want to do whatever.
So the ones that aren't D20, are you doing that for like special stuff?
Usually, like,
or is it like your less
weapon
fantastical?
Your weapon will do a D8.
Oh, X amount.
Yeah, or a D10 or something. Your attack spell will do X amount of damage, or if you're like a bard, you can do like support things and buff people, and you can roll a D6 for adding, like, you know, you're trying to help somebody with their attack. Like they roll the thing and they're like, oh hey, I rolled a 6, you can add 6 to your attack, something like that.
So let's say can you go above 20 in the scale? So
you have modifiers. So like my character sheet, I can basically I have like my longsword, right? I have my longsword, and then what I have is called an attack bonus. Okay. Which is different parts of your character's abilities and stuff added together. So for my character, because I'm just a fighter,
right?
It means like my strength score and my proficiency bonus go into my weapon attack. So I have a 4 in strength, and I have a +3 proficiency bonus. So that means I have +7 to my attack. So when I roll my D20 to attack, say I roll a 20,
right?
I add 7. or I roll a 10 and I add 7. So that's what the additions are. So like you can roll a 10 and be like, oh, normally that would miss, but I add 7, so hey, it's a 17. Does that hit?
Right.
And
so you don't cap out at 20.
No.
Gotcha.
Like if you get high enough, like because there are checks to do certain things. Like say there's a door you want to get into and it's locked. You can make a lock picking check to open the door or see if you can pick the lock. But say like you're in a ancient city that was like home of the gods or whatever, and you're trying to open this door that's like fucking been sealed for 1 billion years. The check could be like 25, 30, and because like it's supposed to be impossible,
right?
Quote unquote. But like you're level 15 at that point, and if you're a rogue, you have like plus 17 into your fucking lock picking skill, so
right.
you can. But like you could still technically fail if you don't roll, a 10. Say
right.
the check's 30. If you roll a 10, it's 27. You still don't fucking pass.
Right.
So but you come up to a 25 and you're level 3. You're not getting that.
Gotcha.
So yeah, there are things that also are above 20 that you have to meet. And people like items that you're trying to attack have AC, which is determined by their armor and their how dexterous they are and stuff like that.
And then you were saying that there's like the D100, which is really 2 D10s. Are you using the 2 dice as like a?
One's 10s and one's the single digit.
Okay, so you don't roll.
You roll both. So usually the D10s it's the
not
same
like
combinator
denominator.
No. It's like so one of them will have like 90, 80, 70, 60 written on it instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then if you get and then it'll have double zeros, and then one will have the single 0 through 10. And double zeros means 100. And then but like
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah. So
sorry, I was just picturing 2 like.
I mean, I could go get them.
Dice with 1 through 10 on it.
Yeah, no.
And
so
then I'm like,
they both have 1
I'm
through
like,
10.
that introduces a lot of math.
Yeah, no. So they both have 1 through 10. The 10 is just a 0.
I understand.
And then the other is double 0 through 90.
I understand.
And it's just 10s.
Gotcha.
And you really only use like the D100 very rarely. It doesn't come up very often. It's called a percentile, and when I was DMing, I would use it sometimes just to make it a little more interesting because you don't use a lot of the dice every now and then. So sometimes I'd just like use it to be a little more fun. Like, oh hey, you have a
change things up.
Yeah, like you have a 75% chance of doing this. Roll a D100. And, it like, so that would be just like, and yes, technically you could just do that with a D20 and figure out what they need to make, but that's less fun. So like,
right.
Hey, use your D100 that you barely ever fucking use.
And then like, I had another question. I just forgot what it was. Oh yeah. I don't understand this like obsession with dice.
I don't either.
Like the dice collecting.
Yeah, I don't either. It's shiny, I guess. But
sometimes like D&D related stuff will come up onto my Instagram or whatever. Actually, the whole reason why I was asking about it today was I saw this video of somebody, she had like a D&D setup, and it was like this whole giant computer screen of a table that she could like change what the image was to match what's going on.
They just put TVs into the table.
Right. And they had like a huge bag of like a whole bunch of different dice, and I'm like the screen is really cool.
Yeah, dice goblins.
Like to allow you to like get more immersed into the experience. Like that's a really neat visual. I just don't understand the dice aspect.
I mean, it's the same thing as like buying figures, stuff like that. I guess. But like, yeah, dice goblins. So I've never been one for that. I use the same set of dice always.
Right.
I bought one other set of dice, and it came with another one. I've never used that other one, but I bought the second one just because I wanted a different set of dice when I was DMing.
Gotcha.
Because I don't know. That seemed nice to me, was having a different set for when I DM'd and when I played. I technically have 5 sets of dice, but 3 of them were gifts.
Okay.
And I don't use them because I like my one set. And they are metal, they're red, they roll really well. I use them.
So you feel like they're good for you.
Yeah. But also, like, people swear by dice superstitions. Like, if it rolls bad enough, you should get rid of it and, like, or like, you know, put it in dice jail and don't touch it for a while and then it'll feel bad and roll better. Like,
but it's
people
plastic.
really believe in that fucking juju, and I think it's stupid. I commit to 1 die and that's it.
Gotcha.
Like, 1 set of dice, I'm fine. I only have the second because I just wanted a different set for when I was DMing. Because I got like a gold set just because I was like, yeah, I'm the DM, it's gold. Fits.
Yeah, cute.
Yeah. But like I haven't even used it in forever because I haven't DM'd anything because I like DMing in person. But now at this point, I feel like I'm never gonna get any people together to do it. So like, whatever.
Gotcha.
I'm also not a great DM, but then again, everybody says they're not a good DM. So
I see. I feel like I've heard Kirsten is good.
Kirsten is good, but she runs games in a way that I am not good at. Because she's more theater of the mind.
Oh yeah,
and
that's what I've observed.
And like I understand, like I can picture things and I can understand things in my head, but like when it comes to combat, I need to see something. I can't, like, because it doesn't, like when I'm like, oh, can I attack this kobold? Yeah, oh yeah, like. Sure, but like, isn't it far away from me, or where is it? Like,
right.
I don't, like that. I'm not good at. I need visuals, and also like, and it also again, it depends. Like when I'm DMing, I really like combat to be kind of like, freestyle and like kinetic. So like, I will make a scenario that like, there are always things around you that you can interact with. So like, you could say you're in a slightly modern day city or whatever, like you'd see that there's like a trash can in the corner. You can run over, pick up the top of the trash can and fucking throw it at somebody because you don't have anything to throw, but you can throw that at them and while you're trying to like distract them or something. Or there's a pillar that you could that's around there, like, oh, I want to climb up that pillar, or I want to break that pillar and have it fall on this person. Like, sure, like that's how I like running a lot of campaigns. It's like having my players think about the combat.
Right. You want it to be like a cause and effect.
Yeah, kind of. So there's always kind of usually something around whatever they're fighting that they can interact with and do something with.
Gotcha.
Other people, there's just what's there. Like, you know, It's just like, hey, you're in this room, fucking attack, and like that's what it is.
Fucking attack.
And some people do theater of the mind, which I'm not. I personally am just not about. But Kirsten is a good DM. It's just not a style I like
that
personally.
You can jive with.
Yeah. And she was in my game when I was running it, and I'm sure she could say I was not great at DMing. But also, it was like the first time I was like really sitting down to try to DM. And so like a lot of things I was trying to figure out how they would work, and like it was like I would overthink it, and then it'd be like, after the fact, you'd be like, that could have just been like a rule of cool. Like, why was I trying to figure out how this would work? And then be like, oh, that doesn't work. That wouldn't make sense. Where it was just like, you know what? Yeah, like do it. So like, I've run a few one shots since then that I think I've gotten better at, but I'm still like, I still don't think I'm a great DM by any stretch of the means. But it all just kind of depends. And again, it's like what people are looking for and what they want out of it. And like what kind of world you can create and everything. I think it's just D&D is fun just because it can be whatever you want it to be.
Right.
And it's like a very, like back when I was in college, every weekend I would go to my friend's school because they didn't go to the same college as me. And we would find an empty classroom at the end, like at night, and we would sit there from like 8 p.m. to like 5 in the morning playing D&D.
Like the cool kids you were.
Yeah. And we would do that every weekend until I basically left Texas. And so like it was just, you know, like ungodly amount of hours of playing D&D.
Right.
Never could do that again in my life. But now it's like I'm lucky if our session goes for like 2 hours.
Gotcha.
You know, like, and if we even get people together, like D&D is always been like a meme in the community of like getting like managing to get anybody
Gotcha.
all of the group together. It's always a fucking hassle. But yeah, like now it's like we're lucky if we get like 2 hours of a session done, and so like it feels like we don't achieve much every time because it's only 2 hours and there's a lot that goes on. A combat can like if there's 3 enemies, that could last the 2 hours.
What?
Because it's all you have to wait in each turn. Some players don't know what the fuck they're doing, so then it takes longer, or or they just have a lot of health and you're just trying to fight them and not die and whatever. Like combat takes a long time.
Gotcha.
It's very hard to make combat go fast.
Is there like an ideal number to have, or can you do like 3 people?
The ideal number is technically 4. That is what...
That feels relatively small. For some reason, I thought it would be more, like 7.
No, 4. 4 is what everything... Like, if you're just following the book...
Including the DM.
No.
Oh.
You don't count the DM as
a so person. You want 4 people and then your DM.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And that's only because, like, if you're using monsters from the book, right? It's all balanced around 4 players.
I understand.
So it's all balanced around having 4 people fighting said monsters. There's something called a challenge rating, which people usually ignore anyway. But like the idea behind it is that like if it's a challenge rating 1, a party of 4 at level 1 would find this fight mildly challenging. Like this would be a challenge for them,
right?
Or if it's a challenge rating 4 people at level 4 would find this hard. Basically, if I'm remembering correctly, but that's like the general idea,
right?
And so everything is balanced around 4.
Okay.
But I think we have like 7 in our party, so.
Oh, okay.
Like it depends on if your DM is good enough at balancing this stuff out, and a lot of DMing is just doing shit on the fly, like off the cuff. Like you can plan down to how many screws are in the fucking wall of this house, but players will always find a way to just ignore the house entirely.
Gotcha.
Like, so basically, as a DM, your goal is just to tell the story you're telling, but flow with what's going on. So a good analogy...
Because it's kind of like evolving as you go along.
Yeah. Because again,
based on
you could have
decisions.
Big, scary, ominous house that's very clearly where you're supposed to go.
And you could be like, nah, I'm not interested. Let's keep walking.
Yeah, exactly. That happens a lot.
Gotcha.
It happens a lot.
Gotcha.
You have your big bad McEvil guy, but he was standing on a bridge, and the players just decided to cut the bridge, and you didn't think about how the character would be able to get away with that or fly, so they just fell to their death. That was your main bad guy of the entire campaign. Now he's dead.
Gotcha.
Figure something out.
Gotcha.
Like, there are so many stories like that, you know? Just, like, bad luck. Like, your players got a really good crit. They were and your character was in a really bad position, and they just killed the person that was supposed to be there for a while.
Gotcha.
Stuff like that.
Gotcha.
So, like, it's all just happenstance, and you got to plan around everything. So, a good
So you want a story, but you don't want it to be so concrete that you can't continue.
Because a lot of people don't like railroading.
Right.
Which is what it's called, of like,
okay.
No, you have to go to this house. You can't not do it.
Right.
So, because it's not fun.
Right.
I mean, some people they're just looking for an A to B story. They don't go anywhere else, and so that's that's fine. But for the most part, I know most people I know are not a fan of that.
Gotcha.
But again, an analogy that I heard, which was from a famous internet DM, Brendan Lee Mulligan, which is you're always technically railroading your players, but it's about making sure they don't feel like you are.
Right.
So, if your goal is to get this, you have a river, right? And it's just going straight down the mountain. That's what, like, you want it to do, is get from the beginning to the end. That is your goal. But then your players decide they want to make a fucking left. So your river basically always is making curves, but it's always going to end at the same spot.
Right.
But, like, it's turning to adapt to what the players are doing.
Gotcha.
So that they never feel like they are being railroaded, but it is still bringing them to the same
destination.
Same destination.
I understand.
That's like the balancing act of what you're doing.
Gotcha.
He also has a story that was like, basically in the same vein as like it can be whatever the hell happens. He was running a campaign for these people, and they were like, the start of the game, they were like the inciting incident. They were at a wedding.
Okay.
And they were just like on a whim. They were just like, how are the bride and groom? You know, like what's going on with them? And he was like, oh, you know, give me an insight check just to check how their general vibe is, basically.
They're dead.
Yeah. And he was like, oh, you know, you can, like, he rolled really well. And so he was like, you can kind of tell that the bride's not super into this wedding. You know, she's not necessarily all about it. And he was like, and right there on a whim, just because of that, they were like, fuck it. You know what? We're crashing this wedding. We're going to steal the bride and free her from this arranged marriage she doesn't want to be a part of.
Oh, my God.
And he was like, okay. And the whole point was that, like, big bad McEvil dude was supposed to show up and steal the bride or whatever.
But they did it instead.
But they stole the bride. So instead, it became, now the big bad evil guy is going after them.
To get the bride back.
The bride, and the entire city and whatnot are also helping the evil guy to get their future queen back.
That's really funny.
And like, you know, so they were supposed to chase after him to save the princess, but now they're getting chased after because they stole the princess.
Right.
And they like get away and they put her down. They're like, yo, we're like, are you good? She's like, yeah, like, thanks for saving me. I was super not about that wedding. Like, I appreciate it. And then she just followed them around for the rest of the campaign because they just became friends.
That's really funny.
So, like, you know, the entire campaign at that point was like upended. You know, it
right,
was like,
right, right.
And his whole point was like, and what do you do?
Like,
what are you going to tell them no?
The main plot beats were still there.
Right. He was like, what are you going to do? Tell them no? No. Like, you roll with it. You figure it out. Like, all right, he originally wanted to get the princess. Now he's just going after the princess, which is now making him chase you instead of you chasing him.
Right.
Like,
but I feel like that's a good way to like work around that issue.
Yeah. But like, so that's what a lot of playing D&D and like running a game especially is like.
Right. I feel like it seems very overwhelming to run a game.
There are things called forever DMs, which is once you take that seat, you're there.
Oh,
because
okay.
Nobody wants to do it.
Gotcha.
Nobody wants to DM. Some people, I mean, people find it very fun.
Right.
But a lot of people are like, fuck that. I don't want to fucking deal with that shit. When I was running, it was like I had general layouts of everything that was kind of going to go on, but then a lot of it was just off the cuff.
Gotcha.
It just, you know, like a lot of times it's a meme in the community too, where like, you know, you go into this shop and you're trying to buy some fucking shit and you're like, by the way, what's this character's name? And DM's just like,
Jeff.
Yeah, like Jeff Strommelberg. And you're just like, stop. Jeff Strommelberg? Well, I love him, so now he's going to be part of our friend group. And he's just there forever now. Like, because
here's our horde of bad guys, and then there's Jeff.
Yeah, like, you know, hey, I'm looking for directions. I walk up to this person on the street and I'm like, hey, hi, what's your name? And like every time the DM's just like, you son of a bitch. Like, because, you know, it's just like, it's just background noise, but then they're like, I'm picking you. What are you about?
Right.
And it's just like, what's your name? What's your profession? What do you do for a living? And you're just like,
you bitch.
Their name is Jonathan and they're a banker. Yeah? Well, what kind of bank? They're a banker. What do you want to know? Like, you know, like, so it's stressful, but it's fun.
Right.
Like, I would say the stressful part of it is stressing about your players not having fun.
Okay.
Past that, like, as long as you're good enough at, like, just being good at, like, having something come off the top of your head, it's a fun time. Like, you can pretty much roll with it. And I had a lot of fun with, like, creating custom monsters that all had very different, like, abilities and stuff, and they would be like bosses for certain areas they were in. Like, they wouldn't just, like, I wouldn't create a monster for every fucking encounter.
Right.
That's a pain in the ass. I would never do that. But, like, they were like big boss fights.
Right.
Or like creating custom weapons that just kind of did cool shit. Were they balanced? No, but like they were fun, so whatever. And you know, so like it's just as long as you're good with just kind of like improv,
right,
you'll be fine.
Gotcha.
The stress part is just, are these people having fun? I don't think they're having fun. I think they're lying to me. You know? So that's.
So it's more stressful to be the DM than like
absolutely.
Somebody.
It's always more stressful than being the DM. As the player, you can ignore anything. Like you can do whatever you want. You can not give a shit about anything happening.
Gotcha. But do people get like mad at you if you're not helping the team?
Depends on who you're playing with.
I guess that's fair.
But sure, yeah, people can.
Right.
And again, it also depends on your DM. Like sometimes you can just be like, hey, I'm personally not having fun with what's going on right now. Like I'm just not very interested. And the DM can be like, all right, we can fast forward through this part. Like just give me like 2 rolls for some social encounters to see how they go and see if you succeed and we can move on from there, kind of stuff. Like that's the game I've been playing recently. That's kind of how it's been going. Like near the end of like that political summit I was talking about, a lot of us were burnt out and we were like, dude, we've been doing this for a bit too long and like we no longer want to be doing politics.
Right. We got to move on.
Yeah. And he was like, all right, that's fine. Like, the summit can happen. Like me, Kieran, and our friend Jardo, hey, give me 2 rolls, one bluff, one insight or whatever the fuck, it didn't really matter. And it was just like, just to see if we could achieve what we were achieving and then move on.
Right.
Instead of having to actually talk it all out.
Right.
And then we did that and he was like, and then it was over. Like, he was like, all right, cool. Let's, what do you guys want to do now? Like, what's your next goal? Because we achieved the summit arc.
Right.
And so now we're in the fucking swamp trying to fucking deal with some goddamn, like, marine people.
Okay.
Mer people. That's what I was looking for.
I was like, the Marines.
Yeah, mer people, merfolk.
Okay.
Because I don't even remember why we were there.
Is it like the merfolk in Goblet? What's the one? Goblet of Fire, where they're all like, kind of look.
Oh, like what? So,
I can't do it again. Sorry.
It depends, but kind of.
Gotcha.
They can be out of water though.
Oh, okay.
Some of them. I don't think actually all of them can, but
that sounds scary.
But yeah. And we ran into a spirit naga that used to be one of our players' like mentor for their wizardness, and they stole their wizard book. And so the naga is really pissed because they stole their fucking spell book. And
their wizard book.
Yeah. And so it went to attack the wizard, and I got to punch the snake in the nose. So I decked the
snake. Was the wizard?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, a naga. Technically, it's not a snake, but whatever. I call it a snake. So I decked the I decked the big snake in the schnoz.
Ouchie.
And now we're gonna be fighting that next time we play.
The big snake.
Yeah.
He's going to be holding a grudge because you punched him in the nose.
Well, he was already holding a grudge because
But now it's an extra grudge.
One of our teammates
You gave him a boo-boo on his nose.
Her spell book, yeah. So that's like what's going to happen next time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So do you have like a in the next episode at the end of a session? Or like a previously on?
Sometimes if we like took a week off or somebody wasn't there, but like usually no. But yeah, I don't know. Did that describe anything about why D&D is fun for people?
Yeah, no. I think that was definitely insightful. Like, because I never really understood like the gameplay to begin with.
Right. And it can be anything, so it's hard to explain.
Yeah, because I think in my brain I was just like, I kind of knew it could be anything, but I didn't realize there was like essentially like guidelines. So I was like, but how does everyone just have like, like know what they're doing?
When you're
because you can't be writing out the rules every single time.
When you're starting out, it's a lot. And I've played with plenty of people that start the game, and it's a lot of just kind of repeating, like, use the D20 for everything. Like, you roll this die for that. Hey, like, you're trying to talk to this person and like convince them you can roll a deception check to see if you do that. And they're like, oh, what's that mean? Like, it's a lot of like explaining things over and over and over again until they finally get it. But I mean, everybody starts somewhere.
Right.
And it's still fun. Like, it also again, it depends because you can play with people that don't make the game very fun. Which is always a bummer and just kind of annoying. But like, for the most part, it's simple enough. It can be very complex, but like generally, it's pretty simple and easy to like just kind of understand why it is fun. But it isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
But I do think at least, like for the most part, people should at least play D&D once.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's a very different experience to most things that you play or do.
Right.
And it can just be really fun.
Sounds very interesting. I don't know that I would get into it, but it sure is interesting.
I feel like we could definitely get like a one shot together just for you to play it like once in like 2 hours.
I feel like I'm remembering, I don't know if this is considered D&D, but I feel like I remember playing something of this similar ilk. Like years ago with Kirsten. And it was like this cool like sci-fi theme.
Cyberpunk?
Yeah.
That is another RPG tabletop. It's just like it's like D&D but its own thing.
Oh, okay.
So like cuz there are other things than just D&D like Cyberpunk.
Okay, cuz I think that's the one we did was Cyberpunk.
Yeah. Probably.
It was cool.
So if you like that, you'd probably like D&D.
Gotcha.
But I mean, like there are slightly different rules, but it all kind of follows the same vibe.
Right.
And there are just a lot of like variations of different stuff that exist within that realm.
Neato.
D&D is just like the fantasy one.
Oh, so they're not all D&D?
No.
Oh.
Like Dungeons and Dragons is specifically like it's like Sony and Microsoft. Like it's
gotcha.
It's
like the name brand.
Yeah, D&D Dungeons and Dragons is the name brand for that type of game.
I am picking up what you were putting down. Gotcha.
It is just a tabletop RPG.
Gotcha.
So there are many tabletop RPGs. Dungeons and Dragons is just like the biggest one.
Yeah, it's like the household name.
Yeah.
I gotcha. I thought they were all just D&D.
No.
Well, that makes more sense.
Yep. Were there any Dungeons and or Dragons in your Cyberpunk game?
I guess not, but I guess I didn't really think about it that much, to be honest.
You fool. All right, well, you can wrap it up there.
Yeah, that's good.
Hey, thanks for watching this week's episode of the Vaguely Anime Podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, leave a review, follow. And you have 4 weeks to watch A Certain Scientific Railgun Season 2. And don't forget to check out Kat at Kat the Moonstar on Twitch. And, yeah, we will see you guys next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.